Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your 8 PM show and your latest Manchester United news as we talk Amorim's transfer wish list. There's a lot of people talking about what will happen, what players will bring in, but actually I want to get into this with you like we did last night about who's going to fit into the system. I want to talk about the players that he's going to go for because I think that there are there's three massive hints from the summer. Some people even have conspiracy theories that they were planning on bringing Amorim in when they kept Ten Hag, and maybe there are some theories there we'll discuss. But I also think there are three key positions he's going to look at, and I don't think it's going to be sporting players that he brings in. So we'll talk about that. Also, Kobe Mainoo has made an interesting statement about winning trophies not being a successful season. And we've got this news about Manchester United and 3 or 4 other Premier League clubs staking a claim for compensation if Manchester City get found guilty. It's all going on the show tonight. Lots going off as well. And I'll tell you what's going off. You might have noticed I've had a bit of a shave and I've got a big reveal to tell you because my shave was courtesy of the brand new latest innovation from Manscaped, the Chairman Pro Electric Shave. This game-changing tool brings the luxury of a professional shave right into your home, whether you're after that daily silky smooth finish or prefer to maintain a rugged 5 o'clock shadow. The Chairman Pro is your go-to for precision and style. Precision shaving features 2 interchangeable skin-safe blade heads. Use the skin-safe 4-blade for a clean, smooth shave or switch to the skin-safe stubble trimmer to keep your stubble sharp and polished. They're trying to catch me up with all this skin-safe stubble stuff. At the end of the day, it's got Flex Adjust technology, it's got a waterproof design, and it's got powerful performance. And it can be delivered to you with the code TUS20 for 20% off and free worldwide shipping. Get it today, but don't forget as well, we've still got this beauty, the lawnmower, which is there to do the business downstairs as well. Trim the grass to make the yard look bigger. You're never going to get a Manscaped integration without me telling you about the lawnmower. Yes, it's better. Yes, it's precision engineering for your family jewels, but they do everything as well. They've got nasal hair trimmers, they've got shavers, they've got that for down there. They've got all sorts. 20% delivered to your door with the code TS20. Free shipping with that as well. Fantastic products with Manscaped. Christmas is coming as well. There may be partners and stuff thinking about presents. Brilliant. Get yourself 20% off and get it in their stocking. Lovely stuff from Manscaped. Thank you very much. TUS20, 20% off with that code and free worldwide shipping. Don't miss it. Links in the description or scan the QR code. Okay, let's start off with Amorim's transfer wish list. You might have noticed Edison of Atalanta on the title thumbnail. Now, I don't believe that Manchester United were thinking about getting Amorim when they gave Erik Ten Hag his contract in May. Some people do. And if I wanted to play the conspiracy game, I would say this. Manchester United didn't buy a left back, and you don't necessarily need a centre back. Get your bloody words out, Goldbridge. What you bloody been doing? Bloody concentrate, you prat. Manchester United don't need a left back if they're going to play a 3-4-3. Man United didn't buy a left back. Man United went for Branthwaite when they still wanted De Ligt. And many people said, why are we going for De Ligt and Branthwaite when we've got Yoro, Martinez and everybody else? Well, you need a lot of centre-backs if you're going to play 3 at the back. Also, Man United's obsession was Elise. We don't need Elise. We've got Ahmad, we've got Garnacho, we still had Sancho, we've got Rashford, we've got Anthony. Well, you need a lot of wingers if you're going to play a 3-4-3. So the conspiracy theory goes like this. Man United wanted Amorim before they even decided to give Ten Hag another contract. And Man United still wanted Amorim throughout that time, which is why we didn't buy a left back, which is why we were going for another centre-back, and it's why we were going for another winger. Because centre-backs and wingers thrive in Amorim's system, left-backs, full-backs don't. The kicker to that is that in Ten Hag's team, you need a left back, you don't need as many centre-backs, and you don't need as many wingers. And yet we were trying to buy a winger, we were trying to buy another centre-back, and we didn't buy a left back. So the conspiracy theory is, well, clearly, Agate is an Amorim player as well. We were buying up players for Amorim, knowing we were going to sack Ten Hag. The problem with that is, it makes total sense up until the point where you go, why would you give Ten Hag a contract and pay him £15 million? Why would you employ Ruud and Rennie Heck? It's a conspiracy theory. It doesn't make any sense. But what does make sense is that there is clues from what Man United have tried to sign in the summer in relation to what I think next 3 transfers will be on Amorim's wish list. Because remember, Amorim's wish list is actually Ineos's wish list because Amorim doesn't have a veto. So he will suggest players, but it will be Ineos who decide what they go for. And I think there are 3 big areas in this team that Manchester United and Amorim will look at. And I'm going to go through the positions, but I'm also going to give you players. Now, you can get your suggestions in. I'm not suggesting that you need to agree. What I would say is I'm wearing a Christmas jumper. I'm wearing the Christmas jumper just to show you what it's all about. I think it's our best design yet. I like the arm. I like this. I like that on the back. And I really do like that style as well. Links in the description. Get them while you can. We've only got a couple of hundred left. They do ship worldwide. But why are you doing it? Well, 1, to promote the Christmas jumper, so you can get it in time for Christmas, because you're going to want to start wearing this in a couple of weeks to get the full use out of it. But 2, to say that in a Christmas sense, Amorim is very unlikely to get his Christmas wish list from Manchester United, because we do have to consider FFP. Man United will be able to spend some money in the summer like they were last summer after June the 30th. But up until June the 30th, we are struggling to comply with FFP. So these players I'm about to mention here, I am not expecting them to be brought in January. I am expecting these key players to be brought in the summer. The three positions, and I'll give you examples of players that I think Man United need to buy over the next 6 months for Amorim, are a centre-back, a midfielder, and a winger. Now, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but if you look at the 3-4-3 system, you need a lot of centre-backs, you need a lot of wingers, and I look at the holding midfield area of Agate and Mainoo, and I don't see a lot else. And that, to me, is another area of the pitch that's very important. The double pivot midfielders are very important. The 3 centre-backs are very important. And effectively, sometimes he plays 4 wingers, 2 wide and 2 behind the striker. So I think we need an abundance of wingers. I think we need an abundance of centre-backs. And I think we need another holding midfielder. And my 3 suggestions are, we know Branthwaite is a player that they want, and he's left-footed, and he would fit into the centre-back 3 area to give us numbers there. I also think in the double pivot, Ederson is absolutely nailed on. Now, that sounds wrong that we're going to get him, but I know that Dan Ashworth really likes him. I know that Man United have scouted him. I know that Newcastle tried to get him last January, and we know that this will be his last season for Atalanta. And we know that Man United really, in the long term, have only got Agate and Mainoo. They need somebody else, because if Casemiro goes or Casemiro drops off, and then Mainoo gets injured, who is going to play in the pivot next to Agate? Yeah, you could get Delo to fill in, you could get Mazraoui to fill in, but we are going to need somebody in that position. So I think centre-back, holding midfielder, and winger are the next 3 priority positions. And Homeland would be great, Red Devil, but I'm not convinced we're going to go for sporting players. I was watching the video this afternoon with Beth talking about Pedro Gonçalves and also Quenda. Quenda's just signed a new contract with a 100 million release clause. Homeland, I think, has got an 80 million release clause. Gyökeres has got an 80 million release clause. I'm sure that Amorim would like to buy those players, but I don't think we necessarily need to. I think there may well be other players we can get for a lot less of the price. So a lot of people are talking about striker. I want to talk about that. So Ederson for the midfield, I think, would work. Branthwaite, I think, is a player they're going to go for. As for wingers, I don't actually know. And I don't actually know because I don't actually know of any wingers that Man United are looking at actively at the moment. But I think we will bring a winger in because this was something that Ineos wanted to do before the summer. And I think it's something that they will want to do for next summer as well. And don't forget, when it comes to financial fair play isn't just about waiting for next year to use the next year's allocation. You've also got to generate funds as well. There might be a winger or two that we move on. Anthony. I mean, if you sold Rashford, it's pure profit. I'm not saying that would happen, but if you did, even if it was 40 million, it's still 40 million pure profit on the books. They might move Delo on. A lot of interest in Delo. So we will have to generate some money as well. But I think a winger, a holding midfielder, and another centre-back are absolutely essential, because you've got to start to look at the makeup of the squad and the future under Amorim. And what does he need in abundance? He needs centre-backs, he needs holding midfielders, and he needs wingers. He probably does need another striker as well. I mean, I was almost tempted to say 4, but I think 3 sounds better. But there is a growth market, there is a growth industry at Manchester United at the moment, and it isn't really fullbacks. It isn't. It's centre-backs, it's holding midfielders, it's wingers, and it's a striker. That's the growth area. Fullbacks probably don't suit the future. I certainly don't think we need to buy a left back anymore. I certainly don't think we need to buy a right back. Mike says, Mike's gifted a membership, but give me your thoughts. I'm interested. This is what we do on the international break. Like, is there any specific areas or players that you think we'll be looking at? Because I'm saying right now, Branthwaite, Edison, a winger, they're the growth areas for me. They're the obvious areas for me. I think we're short. I was looking at the squad today and I was going, where are we short in this team? And I was like, okay, you need to start 3 centre-backs. You've got Martinez, you've got Yoro, you've got De Ligt. Luke Shaw is injury prone. Harry Maguire is 32 and out of contract and becoming injury prone. Johnny Evans will retire at the end of this season and Victor Lindelof's out of contract. Those 4 are gone. So I'm actually left with 3 positions and 3 centre-backs. Yes, Mazraoui could play there. Yes, maybe Delo could play there, but that's only 5. We are actually good for centre-backs this year, but next year we're probably going to lose 3 or 4. So we definitely need another centre-back. I'm looking at this squad and I'm going, next season, that next summer is when Amorim will get money. Where are the areas we're going to go? Centre-back, absolutely nailed on. There's not necessarily any young centre-backs coming through either. There's nobody really from the centre-backs that people are going, they're ready. And I hope somebody can come through. Aravind says, what about Luke Shaw for centre-back, mate? Do you not listen? Do you just literally not listen at all? Where's Luke Shaw been for the last 18 months? We can't have that conversation. We just can't have it. We're talking about the future. We're talking about squad and we're talking about areas of weakness and what players and positions we're going to prioritise. I think centre-back is absolutely nailed on. Into the midfield, as I said before, Casemiro's not getting any younger. Ericsson will go. That leaves Mainoo and Agate. Yes, there is Collier coming through. Hopefully a Gore or someone else like that. But I think, you know, even if a Collier or a Gore comes through, they're teenagers or their early 20s, just like Mainoo. So I think you need another centre-back, another midfielder as well, because otherwise we're short in centre-back and we're short in the pivot as well. And then I look at the wingers and I go, well, if you play 2 wide wingers, that's 2 wingers. You might want to put wingers in behind the striker as well. So let's say every game you want to play at least 3 wingers, 1 behind the striker and 2 out wide. We've got Garnacho, we've got Ahmad, we've then got Anthony, and we've got the Rashford problem. But it's only 4. So I would say we need at least another winger as well. So that's why I've said winger, holding midfielder and centre-back are areas of weakness in our squad next summer due to age, end of contract and form. They are areas that we will have to get players in for. Otherwise, this whole 3-4-3 system probably will fall down. I also think a striker is a good shout. We have got a little bit of time to assess that situation, but I think a striker will come in. It depends what sort of budget you've got. I mean, look, honestly, if we want centre-back, holding midfielder, winger and striker, where's the 300 million quid for that? We might have to get creative. We might have to go for somebody who is not as high profile as you think. But so much of that depends on Rasmus. If Rasmus can become Man United's to Manchester United what Gyökeres came to Sporting, because no one was expecting that, then you'd probably go for a striker that's a bit cheaper. If Rasmus can't do that, then you've probably got to go for someone a little bit more high profile. Of course, you have got youth as well. Alfonso Davies Shawley says, David, dinner today, says Rebecca. Sergit says, what about Florian Wirtz to United? Perfect competition for Bruno. I don't want to be offensive, so I'll be offensive, but I haven't really got time for people who want to talk about £90 million players. We're not operating in that world, and I think it's a waste of everybody's breath. We try to be realistic. We might predict realistic signings that don't come anywhere near Man United, but we can't start talking about Musiala or Wirtz like we're going to spend 60, 70, 80, 90 million pounds on one player. We're not that club. We haven't got the money to do that. we only got Yoro for 50 or 60 because we're doing it in installments, and we did a very good deal with Lille. I think we've got to be realistic about what we do, because the minute people start talking about maybe we can get Mbappe out of Real Madrid, maybe we can get Wirtz, maybe we can get Musiala, is the day we start being unrealistic. And when we start being unrealistic, then that's when the pressure piles onto a manager, because people are being unrealistic. Mike JBA says, gifted the membership. Look, I'd love Wirtz, but I just don't think it's realistic. Carol J, thanks for being a member for 31 months. Patrick Lynch says, conspiracy thought. Erik ten Hag was given an extension, not a new contract. Amorim did say United told him now or never, and he wanted to end the season with Sporting. Maybe Ineos wanted him in the summer, but results meant otherwise, says Patrick Lynch. Patrick, I think the conspiracy theory works. I've always thought it worked. We didn't buy a left-back. You don't need a left-back in a 3-4-3. We're trying to get more centre-backs. You don't need more centre-backs when you're only playing two. And we tried to buy a winger, and I couldn't really understand why. So you need loads of wingers. You need loads of centre-backs. You don't need a left-back. And we got Agate, who used to play with Amorim. The conspiracy theory works really, really well up until the point where you go, you've just spent £15 million on sacking Ten Hag. You just spent another £10 million getting Amorim out of Sporting. That's £25 million, plus Ruud, plus Rennie Heck. It just doesn't make sense on the financials because we're in debt. So I think it works as a conspiracy on many levels, but it doesn't actually make any sense to do it. Mark, our strikers will benefit a lot more. Can we just actually have a moment as well for Erik ten Hag? I think we're in a better position. I think he's in a better position. I think it had got to a point where enough was enough. But have you ever actually thought and taken one moment today to think that actually Howard Webb has admitted it wasn't a penalty for West Ham? It was a shocking decision. And if we'd drawn that game, I don't think he'd have been sacked. I will never, ever, ever, ever encourage Michael Oliver or say he did a good job. But he probably wouldn't have got sacked if we'd drawn that game, and it shouldn't have been a penalty. Deacon Heads, welcome to Members Club. Thank you very much. Mark, our strikers will benefit a lot more with the 3-4-3 system with two just tucked up close behind, says Jason. Carzilla says, breaking. Premier League referee David Coote is seen in new emerging footy. I've seen it, mate. I mean, this is not That's Football, but I've seen it. Have you seen the latest on David Court's noting? Yeah. I mean, he's going to lose his job, isn't he, Chris, at the end of the day? Mark, you're currently 80-1 as next Match of the Day presenter, says Paul. I'd say very unlikely, but interesting stuff going on. Parker says you should grow a long beard like LeBron. And Kristen, welcome to Members Club. Thank you very much for that. Probably naive here, says Lee. How does this system deal with attacking wingers and overlapping fullbacks? Does the defence shift over? Won't we need to defend with five, says Lee. I think if you've watched any sporting games, and admittedly I've been watching them a lot more than I was, basically when you haven't got the ball, the wide players have to work ridiculously hard. I was watching the Braga game, but the Man City game really caught my eye because they were playing defensively. But the minute they got the ball, they were almost level with the striker, the wide players. It's ridiculous amounts of work, which is going to be interesting if you can get those players to do it. Would you take Van der Ven from Spurs, says Paul? Yes. Quality player. Bit injury prone, but quality player. In January, we'll go for a forward and a midfielder, says Keel. Ben Jones says 3 centre-backs in, simple maths. So 3 out, 3 in, says Ben. I can't lie, bringing back Cambuala isn't a bad shout. You know what? I can't lie, MUFC LB. I don't know how well Cambuala's doing at Villarreal. Emily Derry makes a great point. We arguably, this is what I want. This is what I like about the international break. So we will be talking about the Man City thing in a minute, and we will be talking about what Mainoo said. But we're talking about at the moment the 3 positions that Amorim will go for, essentially. And I've said, well, we're going to be really short on centre-backs in the summer, and that's a key position when you need 3 of them. We're going to be really short in centre midfield in the pivot, and that's a key position as well. And we haven't got enough wingers when he likes loads of wingers. So I think those 3 are as important, if not more important, than a striker. And Emily Derry says, we arguably need to sign 2 centre-backs, 2 midfielders, 1 more attacking and 1 more defensive. I think when you're changing system, we need quite a few players. Everything, Mark. Evening, Mark, says Dan John. It's been a while. Hope you're doing well, Dan. I'm excited for the new plan, but as a side note, do you think Coot was offside in the video released earlier? Cheers. Thank you very much. Must keep in mind this is Ineos's guy, says Keel. And Ross Knight says, I think Ineos had Amorim in mind all along, but bought players both for Ten Hag and he can use as a safety net just in case Ten Hag does well. I think that makes sense, Ross. I think that makes sense. And sometimes the truth is in between, isn't it? I think they like and admire Amorim, and that's why he's here. I think they gave Ten Hag the job and wanted him to succeed. But I think there probably was an element of, if we're going to buy players, let's buy players that suit where we could be heading as well as where we are heading. And what I mean by that is De Ligt, Ugarte, Mazraoui, Yoro, Xerxes all fit the system that Ten Hag wanted to play. But if Ten Hag fails and you get Amorim, they all pretty much fit the system that Amorim wants to play. I mean, the only one that maybe doesn't is Xerxes, but it's a system with two attacking midfielders, so he could work. So I think that's probably what did happen, Ross. I think you're absolutely correct on that. I haven't missed your super chat. I've just read it, mate. I just don't read them all straight away. John says, I hope we change formation. Well, absolutely change formation, or there's absolutely there's no reason to, there'd be no reason to get him. There'd be no reason to get him at all. Just Keevan says, I forgot about Maguire. Well, in the centre-backs, we're going to be so short, aren't we? We need 3 centre-backs. Luke Shaw's unreliable. Maguire's getting old and out of contracts. Johnny Evans will retire. Lindelof's out of contract. So realistically, it's Martinez, Yoro, De Ligt, Mazraoui, Delo. And 2 of those are fullbacks. We are going to need another centre-back in the summer, 100%. What's the free agent market like, says Kristen? Well, this is something Man United need to be very, very good at what Brighton do in finding players through a very good scouting system, which I think we are capable of doing now. We also need to be monitoring the free agent market as well. Mike JBA has gifted a membership. Thank you very much. Somebody just said there, can we talk about this compensation suing of Man City thing? We'll just drift from that for a moment. We can come back to it. So Manchester United, Liverpool and Arsenal want Premier League payout if Man City are found guilty. Several clubs could be entitled to compensation if Man City are found guilty of the 115, 116, 130, whatever it is. City were charged and referred to an independent commission last February after a 4-year investigation, and they have 115 charges between 2009 and 2018. According to reports, Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal and Spurs will seek compensation if Man City are found guilty. Apparently, we and those clubs have submitted legal notices reserving the right to claim compensation if City are found guilty, according to the Times. It is said that all 4 clubs were advised by lawyers that there was a potential 6-year statute of limitations, with the deadline expiring last week. If the charges against City are proven, clubs could claim for loss of income for missing out on Premier League titles and qualifications for the Champions League across multiple seasons. Clubs are not allowed to sue each other in the courts, as they are prohibited from doing so by the Premier League rules. However, they are allowed to submit compensation claims through arbitration. Leeds, Leicester, Forest, Burnley and Southampton applied for compensation when Everton were found to have breached profit and sustainability rules last season. However, those claims have since been withdrawn or remain unresolved. So, a verdict into the charge of Man City, we'll have to wait and see. I think it's a stopgap, really. A lot of people are saying, what does this mean? It can be as significant as you want it to be, or it can be as irrelevant as you want it to be. But what I think it is, it's a safety net. Because if you don't file it, because there's a statute of limitations, what that means is if you commit a crime or a fraud or whatever in 2016, and there's a statute of limitations saying that you can only file a report or a claim for it in 4 years, if it's 2022, you're out of the statute of limitations, so you can't do it. So it sounds like Man United and these other clubs have, basically stated a claim so that if they want to do it, they're not outside that statute of limitations. And effectively, worst case scenario, if Man City got found guilty, Man United, Liverpool, Spurs and Arsenal could claim tens of millions of pounds for missing out on the Champions League over multiple years and Premier League titles. Or on the other hand, they'll get found not guilty and nothing will happen, or they'll get found guilty and people will say you can't do it. But it could be massively significant. And I suppose my general thought is when I see stuff like that, it makes me more think they won't get found guilty, because surely the Premier League look at that today and go, if we find them guilty, not only are we going to have to give them a big fine and probably kick them out of the league, they're also going to get compensation claims against them from a load of other clubs as well. So I don't necessarily think it means it'll happen, but that's what it means in short. Rick says, hi Mark, would Omar Barada face any repercussions from the 115? I believe he was CEO for Man City from 2011. He was never the CEO at Manchester City. He was the CCO, which is the one below that. So it wasn't C3PO, that was in Star Wars. But I don't know. I don't know, mate. I mean, and it is an interesting one from Manchester United's point of view, because we have got somebody that worked very closely with Man City for a very long period of time. You can understand why Pep Guardiola might say, COO he was, sorry, Chief Operating Officer. He wasn't the Chief Executive Officer. Pep Guardiola as the manager can obviously cry innocence and say, I was just running the football club. I don't know how they were doing the money. But as somebody who was a COO, you would have thought they'd be involved in the running of the football club and would have some idea of anything that wasn't quite right. But look, I don't know. Man United must have looked at that. Look, I've done a video on this on That's Football a few weeks ago. Whichever way it goes with Man City, the landscape of football will change massively. We're at the point of no return now. They're either going to get found guilty and it's going to cause a massive upheaval, or they'll get found not guilty and they'll dominate football forever. So whatever happens now, it won't be the same. Abhijit says, it's simple, Mark. All replacements of Ten Hag, Tuchel, Nagelsmann and Amorim all play a back three. It's CJR. Thank you very much for your super chat. Ten Hag was out of contract next summer, says Espen. No, he wasn't. It was the summer after. He had an extension. Gifted a membership, Mike J. Bay A. Thank you. Just in relation to Ten Hag, there was an interesting quote that came out from Kobe Mainoo's interview that he did with GQ magazine, where he basically said that, well, I might get this wrong actually. It was something along the lines of, winning a trophy is nice, but it doesn't make it a successful season. Now, some people have jumped on that and gone, oh, Mainoo having a dig at Ten Hag. Mainoo did a thank you Instagram post for Ten Hag. So I don't think Mainoo has an axe to grind with Ten Hag. I think what he's saying is the truth. I think we all said it. Last season was a crap season. Winning a trophy didn't change the fact that it was a crap season. What winning the FA Cup did is it gave us something to take away from a horrible season. I would never describe last season as successful. I think it had very, very strong memories of that Oli Ranić season, which was just toxic and horrible. But what we did is rescue something from a very bad season. So I agree with Mainoo. I don't think it's wrong to say that last season wasn't a successful season just because we won the FA Cup. I think we took a day and we took a moment from the season, which is better than what most clubs do. And I think that's great for the fans and the club, but it wasn't successful. A successful season isn't winning the FA Cup in those circumstances. It was something to take out of a season, and the players did fantastically well, and so did Ten Hag, to be fair, to beat Man City. But I don't think we can look back on that season and go, yeah, that was a good season just because we won the FA Cup. I think my personal opinion is that consistency is what makes a good season, and the only place you can be consistent is in the Premier League. And we weren't successful in the Premier League. So I agree with Kobe Mainoo on that. Sergej says, what about Jonathan Tah to United? He's a good option. Is he too expensive? He's out of contract in the summer, isn't he, Tah? I'm pretty sure he's out of contract, and I'm pretty sure he's going to Bayern Munich when he is out of contract. But let me just have a quick look. I know he was meant to be going to Bayern Munich anyway, wasn't he? Yeah, he's out of contract in 2025, so he'll just be signing for Bayern Munich, which is what he wanted to do last summer. I heard earlier that Amorim's central centre-back drops just behind the CDMs in offensive play, and that Yoro will be perfect in this role. We need Branthwaite as well, says Stanley. I'll be stunned if we don't buy Jared Branthwaite. It's not the same as Sancho, but it is in a way that we wanted him one summer and we get him the next summer. I really think that this is a player that Ineos really want, and I think that they will go and get him. Wackass with a super chat. Thanks for your super chats tonight. He says, hi Mark, since we changed our game model to a back three, does that mean the academy switches their play to? What happens if Amorim has to go? I think you're going way too far in the future. Mate, you did really good. You did really well, and then you ruined it at the end. You ran the perfect race, and then you tripped up. Yeah? You had the perfect date, and then you farted. Yeah? You ruined it, because it was so good. It was literally so good. If you had just said, since we changed our game model to a back three, does that mean the academy will too? That's perfect. Adding what happens if Amorim has to go sort of ruins it. Because he hasn't even started yet. Where's he going? On holiday? To the toilet? Paternity leave? Like, we don't need that on the end. But in all serious, Wackass, I think you make a really good point about the youth. Surely we'll start playing a 3-4-3. I was having this chat last week with, can't remember who it was. Might have been Sam or someone like that. And we were talking about how when Van Gaal came in, this was a thing. Because it definitely wasn't a bloody thing under Moyes. Right, everybody, I want to play like Everton. We're going to play like Everton from under 8s, right? Get the ball in the mixer, win the second balls, right? And get at him, Jimmy, you know? Aye, that's what we're doing. You know, Jagielka. You know, I ain't got to play for England because of me. I'm the man. And you'll be the man as well, although you're not a man because you're under 8s. So I think that Louis van Gaal brought this in, and it has been. I don't know whether Mourinho did it. I don't know whether Ollie did it, but I know Ten Hag did it as well. So I think it's a great point, Wackass, and surely we will start playing a 3-4-3 at the younger level. But I'll tell you now, I don't spend as much time analysing and watching the youth setup as much as some people do, because I value it. I think it's amazing. It's what our club's all about. But I just don't really look at players in the youth and go, you're definitely going to be a future superstar, because there's so many people that haven't, and then there's so many people that don't look like they will that do be. But when you look at the youth setup, we are quite stacked on wingers and attacking midfielders. So I think that's a positive in a 3-4-3. But I don't know whether we've got an abundance of centre-backs to play a back three. So I think it's not just recruitment for the first team. I think recruitment in the youth will change as well, because you might start seeing Man United bringing in 16-year-old centre-backs from across Europe and stuff like that, because Wackass is absolutely correct. It would be silly, really silly, to be promoting young players to the first team who've been playing 4-3-3 and then suddenly they've got to play 3-4-3. You've got to start doing it throughout the whole club. Now, I don't know if we've got any sporting fans listening. Is that what you do with your youth? But I think if you want to promote players and generate players that are going to play for your first team, it makes total sense that you've got the same sort of system going on. Mark Miller says, what about Xavi Simons? Very good comment, Mark. Very good comment. I mean, look, there are people out there, and I'm sure we'll do it as well. I mean, I've sort of done it now. Edison in the midfield, Branthwaite at centre-back, maybe a Jonathan David as a striker. I wouldn't move away from those three names much at the moment. But I think Xavi Simons is a good shout from Mark Miller. But there'll be people out there who are doing articles and posts saying, these are the players we're going to look at. I've analysed the system, and I think that these are the players that we're going to look at, because I basically pulled them from my arse, and I've analysed Europe, and I've basically acted like I'm the scout for Manchester United, even though I am not, and I'm currently unemployed, trying to get a job in, what did I do at university? I don't know. Anyway, I spend my time analysing the stats, and these are the signings we're going to play, and I've done a little chart for it as well. Fair play, but nobody had a bloody clue who we were going for in the summer. No one's got a bloody clue what we're going to do now, and that includes journalists. So when you get that comment from Mark about Xavi Simons, I like it. I like it a lot, because we tried to get Xavi Simons in the summer, which means Ineos tried to get Xavi Simons in the summer. We tried to get Branthwaite in the summer, which meant Ineos tried to get Branthwaite in the summer. Dan Ashworth tried to get Edison last January for Newcastle, which means Ineos will be looking at Ederson for Manchester United. And Man United have been scouting Ederson for a very long time. So I think you can learn the future from the past with Ineos, because you're never going to understand the present, because they're never going to tell you and they're never going to tell anybody else who they're looking for. So we can all predict people, but we can actually use past information for potentials. And as I say, Branthwaite, Ederson, Simons are probably quite interesting players that could possibly end up at Man United. And of course, Simons can play in behind the striker. You'd argue he's absolutely bloody perfect, because we know with Simons that he can play as a 10. He has played out wide. Look, I know we got linked to Nkunku. He would be perfect if he could stay fit. But Kuna, I like a lot. Shah, I really like Kuna at Wolves. I don't know whether Man United have ever pushed it beyond scouting. I certainly don't think we've ever lodged any serious interest, but we did in Simons and we did in Branthwaite. Lokesh says, I think Amas is going to be a star under Amorim. He has the technical ability. Also, unpopular opinion, Delo is going to be a key player. Lokesh, I hope you're right. Lokesh, you're wrong. I don't know. We'll have to see. If he wants to play wingers, where does Delo fit in? If he wants to play wing backs, perfect. So, you know, I don't know. I think Delo is a massively important player, but his position doesn't exist anymore. We're not playing with a right back and we're not playing with a left back. Whether it's a wing back or a winger, it ain't a fullback. Fullbacks are dead in this system. It doesn't exist. It's a dead. That's what I said at the start. Why would you buy a fullback? We're not buying fullbacks anymore. We might buy Frimpong. We might get Alphonso Davies, but that's because they can play as wide wingers or wide wing backs, whatever you want to call it. The fullback system is dead and it ain't coming back under Amorim. It's just not there anymore. So whatever happens with Delo, he will have to adapt. Amorim should go back using wing back in the Premier League like the way he used Pedro Porro and Nuno Mendes. If he uses Rashford and Garnacho, that will be a disaster. Play Liverpool will be overrun with Diaz and Salah. We have got 3 centre-backs though, mate. You know, those 3 centre-backs not going to be stood there with their dick in their hand whilst, you know, marking Jota. Liverpool only play with 1 forward. So you've got 3 centre-backs. I think people forget. People overanalyze it and panic about getting done down the wide because we've got wingers. But we've got 3 centre-backs. 3 centre-backs. They don't just stand there marking 1 striker. Most people play with 1 striker. We don't need a winger. Malacia could do a job at wing back. Okay. That's your last chance, mate. Twice you've tried. I think Amas, okay, we keep talking about Amorim bringing in new players, but how do we expect to do that when all of our wages are tied up in players like Rashford, Bruno and Casemiro, says Constantine. Needs to be some harsh decisions. Owen says, for a 3-4-3, you need younger centre-backs, good in exposed situations and good on the ball. Lissandro, Branthwaite and maybe Guehi could work, says Owen. Trey Warren says, a real question, Mark. What happens if Amorim doesn't work out? You're the second person tonight, Trey and Wackass. How does anybody answer that question? If I said to you, what happens if Amorim doesn't work out? Give me an answer. I don't know how I'm supposed to answer that question. For one, I don't want to answer it. He's not even started yet. For 2, I believe he should be given 3 years. So, 1, I don't want to answer it, but 2, we shouldn't be even thinking about it for 3 years. I think if you come into this going, what happens if Amorim doesn't work? Who decides it doesn't work? That's the dangerous. Trey, I will answer this question. Who decides it doesn't work, and when do you decide it? Because this is the thing that we must fear the most. Fans with no patience or a media with an axe to grind. The only people that decide it's not working is you and the media. And it shouldn't be being decided for 3 years. If I hear anybody in 18 months going, nah, he ain't good enough. He ain't good enough for the league. Get rid of him. Yeah, he's just a Portuguese tenor. Get rid of him. Yeah. Who will be deciding that? Ineos aren't going to start putting it out there. We've got to give this guy 3 years. We have to give him 3 years. We're changing our whole system. We're changing our whole training setup. It probably isn't going to work for a period of time. But we've got to give it a longer period of time. And I don't really understand this question of what happens if it doesn't work. Because who's the judge on it not working? Does it not work if we get beat by Man City then? Well, we do get beat by Man City. Does it not work if the players aren't good enough to do the system? Well, we've sacked so many managers because the players aren't good enough. The only way it doesn't work for me, Trey, is if we give it 2-3 years, we remove the shit, which we've never done before, we give him countless players that suit his system, and it still doesn't work. But for me, if we don't get rid of the deadwood, and it doesn't, and it's not working after 2 or 3 years, I think it's on the deadwood again. I think you've got to give him everything. There's no point in 2.5 years being sat here going, I can't believe he and he are still here and we're still doing shit. That's what's got to change. Would you consider Adeyemi or Makoko as striker options, says Mr. Sedo? I don't know. I don't know. You know, I had an answer and then I sort of stumbled. I mean, why not? Why can't it be some striker from the Bundesliga? It matters not to me. It really doesn't matter to me because it matters on how we scout. If we find the right players, I'm happy. But we've got to find the right players. I think he's going to try Rashford as the main striker as he's on a big contract and it could work with this new system, says Jevon. Yeah, look, I certainly don't think for 1 second that he's going to walk in and throw Marcus Rashford on the scrap heap, because whether you like it or not, there's people in that football club who are terrified of that because financially we're balls deep. It's a lot of money and it's a large contract, and therefore Rashford's still very powerful at Man United, the same as Bruno Fernandes, the same as Casemiro. Anybody who's on 300 grand a week with more than a year left on their contract is very, very powerful at that football club. Even if Ineos or somebody are saying they've got the power, I know they haven't. If you've got a player who's got 2 or 3 or 4 years on their contract with 300k a week, you haven't really got the power. You haven't, because the player has. I'm not going anywhere unless someone gives me 300k a week. And if you want me to go, you can pay off all that contract as well. So Man United have to make it work. They have to make it work. And you might be right. My issue with Rashford as a striker is that it's only ever really worked when the ball is there for him to run onto quickly. Well, because he's not physical and he's not great at playing with his back to goal. So when you look at Gyökeres at Sporting, or you look at Erasmus or a Harry Kane or a Haaland, there is a physical element to their game, even though we're talking about many different strikers. We don't really have that with Rashford. So I think Rashford as a striker can work, but it's got to be running onto the ball into space. Well, some people think he's lost a yard of pace. So I don't know. I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if he tried it. I wouldn't be surprised if we tried and used Rashford more centrally, because if he has lost the yard of pace, I think behind the striker maybe. I know people don't necessarily agree with that, but I think behind the striker might be something a bit more central. Before even thinking about transfer outside, I haven't heard much about what happens to the players we have within the club and the young players that could play in a senior role, says the Duke. Ruben will 100% get it right at United, says Wayne Finnegan. I hope so, Wayne. And in my opinion, it'll be sooner than people think. He is a genius. I agree with you. The players we need, Mark, says Wayne. Look, regardless of whether he's successful or not, I think we absolutely need a centre-back. We absolutely need a holding midfielder. And we absolutely need another winger. And that's where I think we'll go. I agree about the striker, but it's those 4 positions for me. Stuart Farron says, interesting times. Are we still of a team of misfits not fitting the jigsaw puzzle? Are we ready to play this exciting new style for our team? I want to believe in this. It's exciting times. You know what? I was thinking about this the other day, and I don't know whether anybody said it, so apologies if they have. Every rebuild has involved a manager coming in with other players that are already there and new players coming in with that manager. There is never synergy. There is an establishment, there is a new manager, and there are new players, and everyone needs to get to know each other. And it's always a very similar system. It's 4-3-3. Let's try and get the defensive line up. Let's try and counter. Let's try and be possession. Let's try and get crosses in the box. From Van Gaal to Jose to Ollie to Rangnick to Ten Hag, it's basically been a back four. And all of those people have come in with new ideas, some new players, and an established dressing room that's been there for a while. What I think's different about Amorim is that There is no establishment. Even Agate and De Ligt have been here with Rashford and Bruno, with Ten Hag. There is no new players coming in. Everybody knows each other in the playing squad, even if it's only for a few months. And then there's a brand new system and a brand new coaching setup with no coach that's been here before. So everybody's in it together is what I'm trying to say. There's no preconceptions. There's no, we've been here before, because nobody has seen this system or played in this system before. And nobody has played for this manager before apart from Agate. So I do think that it's very disruptive, but I also think everybody from Marcus Rashford to Tiro Malacia, from Luke Shaw to Manuel Agate, they're all starting with no head start, with no knowledge, with no, I've played the game, I've been here for years. It's a new Man United. Nobody knows this. You might have been at Carrington for years. You might have been there since you were 8, but you've never seen this before. Nobody has. This is a total reset in a playing style. Complete and utter reset. We've never had that before. And we've always spoken about the club needs a reset. Well, there are numerous reset buttons. Your TV's got a reset button. Your Wi-Fi router's got a reset button. You know, your bloody cooker's got a reset button. There are different elements to Manchester United, and we are hitting reset in the playing side of things. And that could be quite liberating if everybody buys into it. To think Johnny Evans played against Ruben in 2012, says Autistically Stu. Thank you very much. Caitlin says, I don't think Rashford would ever be successful as a lone striker. No, I don't think it's about to be his position. And also, let's be fair to Rashford, he doesn't like playing striker. I don't think he's ever liked playing striker. I think he likes to play looking at the goal, not with his back to goal or running into the channels, creating space. A striker's position is you know, there's the glory, but there's the work. Running the channels, pulling people out of the way to create space for others. I think Rashford can do a job there, and he has done a job there, but I don't think it's a job he wants to do, and I don't think it's a job that would be a long term. But you never know. Good evening, Mark, says Paolo. Why do we talk about these players like we're winning titles? Are we still going to keep them? Find new positions for them. Why? Because it's all we got, babe. It's all we got. It's all we got at the moment, isn't it? It's all we got. And in the short term, we've got to use what we've got. In the long term, I think Branthwaite, Edison make total sense, or players of that ilk. I think we need to try and find a winger. And obviously, I think we're going to need a striker of some sort. But as I said to you this morning, I would not be preparing yourself to predict the future of Man United on incomings and outgoings. For everybody predicting that it'll be Maguire and Lindelof and Eriksen that go in the summer, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a shock, whether it be a Delo or someone like that, just to raise a bit of money. We have to raise money. And if you're going to raise money, you've got to move players on that have value. So I would just get ready. Get ready for what's to come. Vincent says, you're older than Ruben, Mark. Yeah, it's called age, mate. I've had a good life, a lot of experience, a lot of great things. Wouldn't change it to be 5 years younger. So I'm very happy. And I think hopefully if you make it yourself to an older age, because it's not guaranteed, you will get to a point where you don't really care about age either, because you're very happy with what you're doing and what you've got. But some younger people get obsessed with age, and it will catch up with you at some point. And then you'll start to realise what were you moaning or worried about anyway. Most people who try and troll people about something is because they're concerned about it themselves. Oh, you're going slightly bold, Mark. Yeah, because they're terrified of going bold. Thanks everyone for watching. Videos have come out with David Coote. I mean, I'm not interested, Lubo. It's the United stand. I do think, you know what? I did a video on That's Football about it. He's going to lose his job, and I get it, but I think people are a bit... It must be international break. And also, can I just say, you do make a good point, Lubo. Did you notice today how I found myself going, this story that came out about... I'll read it to you, actually, just before we go. I know I have a theory on exactly what it is. So it came out today that following the half-time whistle against Brentford, Darren Fletcher made his way down the tunnel and in an extremely aggressive manner was pointing at the fourth official, shouting, "You're all fucking shit. That's a fucking joke," every fucking week. So, you know, who's leaking this out? And my theory is it's the PGMOL trying to distract from the shit show that's going on with them, with all these videos and stuff, and what's been said about Michael Oliver, to try and go, look at what Darren Fletcher did. He shouted and swore at us in the tunnel because we made a bad decision. Oh, I know one of ours is doing videos and sniffing stuff, and I know another one is completely and utterly not doing his job properly. But look at what Darren Fletcher did. Look, don't look at the videos. Look at Darren Fletcher. He was really angry and he swore at us. And I'm like, hold on a minute. You're all shit. You're a joke and you do it every week. Where's the lie? Oh, he did it in an aggressive way. What do you want him to do? Get your hands and start doing ring of roses. You're all rubbish. You're all a joke. Can you do it every week? Of course he's going to be angry because you're crap at your jobs. But I, it came out and I thought, what's he done wrong? And why is it coming out? And I thought, oh, you know what? It's just distracting tactics. They're trying to play the victim card when they're an absolute joke as an organisation. And we all know how that works, don't we? All of a sudden, everything coming out. Yeah, says Mikhail. Why people mention age when we're all older than Yamal? Says Shane. Thank you very much. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Really enjoying these 8 o'clock shows in the international break. Lots of good topics, lots of good conversation. I don't know whether to do England tomorrow night. If I do, it'll be a 7 o'clock show, but I might watch England and then just have a bigger chat whilst we're watching it. Don't forget, Manscaped, 20% off, free worldwide shipping, code TUS20. Get them delivered for Christmas or whatever you want. Talking about Christmas, don't forget the Christmas jumper. I think this is our best knitted jumper we've ever done. I loved the previous 2 years, but I think the detail on this one, there's so much going on. And I don't know, I just quite like it. You know, if you're going to be out, bit of white, bit of black, better detail. It's knitted, as I said. I'm loving the piping down the arms. The design on the back as well. It's got it going on. If you want to get yourself a Christmas jumper, get them while you can. We do deliver them worldwide, but when they're gone, they're gone. Get yourself to United Stand, Shopify. Link is in the description as well. Take care, everyone. Back in the morning at 10. Stay safe. Thanks for watching. Anything else? No, I think that's it. Take care.